In the first year of marrying Robin. I texted him, "Robin, there's a fire at home." He coldly replied, "Call the fire department first, I'm in a meeting." I glanced at a photo a woman had just sent me and let out a bitter laugh. Despair engulfed me as I perished in the flames, but God allowed me to be reborn 10 years ago. When the new transfer student Robin was assigned to sit next to me, I raised my hand and said, "Teacher, I want to sit with a girl. Teacher, I want to sit with a girl." Just as the homeroom teacher arranged Robin's seat next to mine, I raised my hand. This drew whispers from my classmates. The teacher tapped on the podium, signaling for silence, before asking me, "Why?" "Because in the first year after marrying Robin, he let me die in the fire to be with another woman." Yes. I was reborn. Reborn on the day I met Robin. 10 years ago, when Robin became my deskmate, I was just like all the other girls, fluttering with excitement. From that day on, my long pursuit began, wishing I could gather all the stars in the sky for him. Yet I ended up meeting such a tragic end. In this new life, I will stay far away from him. Because I want to study well, he's so good-looking, and I have weak self-control, so I'm afraid I'll get distracted, I declared solemnly. The teacher was probably taken aback by my bluntness and paused for a moment. In the end, she did switch my deskmate. "You played that desire to entice well." My new deskmate Mike tossed his backpack onto the table beside me, raising an eyebrow. I tried to recall what I knew about him. I vaguely remembered he was an athlete and rarely attended class. What desire to entice? Mike sat down beside me, tilting his head toward Robin, who was surrounded by girls. "You like that guy?" I froze. Following his gaze, I looked over. Robin sat upright at his desk, his back straight in a white shirt. Just as I remembered him back then. "I don't like him." I quickly looked away and began to organize my books. Mike suddenly turned toward me, leaning in close. He stared at me for a long time, and when I frowned, he said, "You're lying. When you like someone, your eyes won't lie." Mike was right. I still liked Robin, I knew at the moment I saw him on the podium. But that was just a leftover spark from 10 years of infatuation. I loved myself more. Mike was indeed an athlete, he hardly attended class, leaving me often alone. This truly allowed me to focus on studying, gradually diminishing my feelings for Robin. After a semester, my grades surprisingly climbed to second place. Right behind Robin. Suddenly, I became the girl everyone said matched well with Robin. "What are you worried about? She doesn't even like Robin, everyone in their class says they're incompatible," I overheard in the restroom during a break. From next door came quiet sobs. The speaker continued, "Don't worry, you're so good-looking, Robin will like you eventually. So sweet and caring. Besides, I heard Sharon likes Mike." The crying suddenly stopped, and a soft voice asked, "Really? Really, you don't believe it? Even someone like Mike has fans." I couldn't take it anymore, I pulled up my pants and stood up. "I really don't like Robin." I kicked open the door to the stall next door, startling the two inside, "but I also don't like Mike." The two were too scared to speak. I turned to leave but stopped, adding, "And Mike is 1,000 times better than Robin." With that, I left the restroom without looking back. When I returned to the classroom, Mike, who hadn't been there before, was already sitting at his desk. He twirled a pen in his hand and raised an eyebrow at me. "Hey, who upset you?" I shook my head. At least this version of him wouldn't just watch me burn in the fire. Robin and I were both selected as school representatives for our excellent grades and good looks to attend a public speaking competition in the city. On the way, I made sure to avoid being alone with him. Until backstage at the competition, he stood behind me and quietly asked, "I've never understood why you dislike me so much." I didn't expect him to talk to me first. "Sharon." Seeing that I didn't respond, he called my name again. This was the first time I heard him say my name since my rebirth. It sounded really nice. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and turned to face him. "I dislike good-looking, high-achieving people." He was momentarily stunned before suddenly laughing. "That reason doesn't hold water." He smiled at me. "You're the same, nobody dislikes themselves." In my past life, he had never looked at me like that, smiling, not even at our wedding. And he was wrong. Some people can indeed dislike themselves. Next up, please welcome Sharon to give her speech. Before I could say anything else, the host called my name. I straightened my back, took the microphone, and walked onto the stage. But thankfully, I really liked the person I was now. In the past, I had always trailed behind Robin, never stepping onto such a big stage. Living again made me realize that apart from Robin, there were many other things I should pursue. "Hey, isn't that your desk mate?" As soon as I exited the venue, I bumped into Mike. He glanced at Robin behind me and gave me a knowing look. "What are you doing here?" I quickly pulled him away, worried he'd say something inappropriate. He let me drag him along while glancing back at Robin, asking casually, "Feeling guilty?" I shot him a glare. "You showed up just in time, I don't want to go back with Robin." Mike was a member of the swimming team. I sat in the large gymnasium, watching him compete for the first time. He stood on the diving board in his swimsuit, looking over at me. I seemed to see that playful expression of his, and with the sound of a gunshot, he dove into the water. At that moment, I realized he might be even better looking than Robin. Most importantly, he had the chest and abs that Robin lacked. At just 17. He was already so fit. As my mind wandered, I snapped back to reality when Mike emerged first from the water. He waved at me with a mischievous grin. Indeed, he was 1,000 times better than Robin. After my speech, I dashed to watch Mike's competition, and news of me returning to school with Mike spread quickly. Robin's girls became increasingly hostile towards me. But I forgot, Mike wasn't an easy target either. "Are you Sharon?" I was blocked on my way home. The group before me was dressed in a way that clearly suggested trouble. I blinked and lied, "I'm not." The girl leading asked another, "Did we get it wrong?" As they debated, Robin called out, "Sharon." "Oh my God. He's insane. Is it not enough that he killed me in my last life? Now he's back." The leading girl scoffed. "Think you can fool me?" She took 2 steps closer. I stepped back 2 steps. Robin then noticed something was off and approached me. "What are you doing?" he said firmly. "Damn. Doesn't this make things worse?" The leading girl glanced at him, raising an eyebrow, "And we have a knight in shining armor? What a load of nonsense." Soon, Robin and I were cornered against the wall. "What do you want?" Just as I thought we were about to be beaten, a cocky voice came from above me. I looked up just as Mike jumped down from the wall. "Mike?" The leading girl seemed a bit embarrassed. Mike shot her a glance. "You know I don't hit girls." That's why many girls at school disliked Mike. He was a fighter. At a key high school, that wasn't exactly a glorious title. "Next time you treat my deskmate like this," Mike threw his bag over his shoulder and walked toward me, "then I can't guarantee I won't hit a girl." Hearing this, the group dispersed without saying a word. "See? That's what a knight is. At least I saved you, aren't you going to thank me?" Mike ambled along behind me, his tone somewhat unfriendly. His hostility wasn't directed at me. When I turned around, I saw him and Robin both stop in their tracks. Robin's slightly furrowed brow showed his displeasure. I knew him, he never liked guys like Mike. But that was no longer my concern. "Mike, thank you for today." I took over Mike's words to Robin. "I need to head home early, so I'll go first." The 2 people who had been at odds turned to look at me when they heard my words. "I'll walk you home." They spoke almost in unison. "Sharon, this is the award certificate for the speech contest." Robin raised his eyebrows slightly after glancing at Mike, then handed me the certificate. "Just in case someone gives you trouble later, I'll walk you back." I took the certificate, but before I could say no, I heard Mike snicker. He stepped closer to me and wrapped his arm around my shoulder. "Robin, you should focus on protecting yourself first." After saying that, he playfully raised his eyebrows at me. "Come on, your knight is here to protect you." Feeling a bit annoyed, I couldn't help but laugh at him. I elbowed him in the stomach, freed myself, and walked in the direction of home, waving my hand behind me. "No need, I'm not some delicate princess, I can handle myself just fine." Mike's booming laughter echoed behind me. I don't know if it was his laughter that influenced me, but I found myself smiling unconsciously. The irritation and annoyance brought on by Robin's closeness faded away. Bad students aren't so bad after all. In the past, I let Robin lead me astray. When I woke up, I found the house suddenly engulfed in flames. I was so scared that I quickly jumped out of bed to run, only to discover that the front door was blocked by fire. In the end, I could only grab a wet towel and hide on the balcony. What surprised me was that just as I hung up the call to the fire department, I received a text message. It was a photo of Robin with a disheveled woman. Looking at the picture on my phone, it felt like all the blood drained from my body, and fear hit me like a bucket of ice water. Robin, there's a fire at home. I sent a message to Robin, who shouldn't have been at work today. He had told me he didn't like me calling him while he was working, so I had never called him. Even now, I habitually sent a text instead. After a while, I got a reply, "You put out the fire first, I'm in a meeting." A meeting? Looking at the photo on my phone, I felt a mix of anger and laughter. The raging flames were closing in on me, and I could faintly hear the sound of sirens outside. Just then, someone suddenly opened the door from the outside. A strong beam of light flooded in. "Sharon, if you don't get up now, you're going to be late." I opened my eyes to see my mom standing by the bed, looking helpless. The emotions from the dream hadn't faded yet, and as soon as I sat up, I tightly hugged her. "Mom, I had a nightmare. A very scary one." Mom gently patted my back. "If you sleep in, you'll have nightmares, that's what happens when you sleep in." "Mom, I'm not a kid anymore." "Oops, you're not so easy to trick anymore." I burst into laughter. Thank goodness that scene was just a dream. After my mom's antics, my mood lifted quite a bit. I obediently got up, washed up, had breakfast, and headed out to school. But to my surprise, as soon as I stepped out of the community gate, I saw Mike. "Mike?" Mike casually spat out the gum in his mouth and waved at me. "What a coincidence. You live in this community?" I nodded and continued walking forward. "Do you live here too?" He shook his head, leisurely following behind me. "I live up ahead, I just passed through here." Robin really has issues, I'm not joking. "Sharon, do you know how to solve this problem?" During a break, Robin suddenly approached my desk. He startled me. The dream from last night was still fresh in my mind, I didn't want to see him even for a second. Without stopping my pen, I replied quietly, "No." "How do you know you can't do it if you haven't looked?" He had never acted like this before. I stopped writing and glanced reluctantly at the problem in his hand. It was the exact problem I had just finished. "I can't," I said calmly, flipping a page in my exercise book that contained that problem. After Robin left, I turned my head and saw Mike, who was lying on his desk with his eyes open. Sunlight streamed through the window, perfectly illuminating his smiling eyes. He and Robin had completely different personalities and looked entirely different as well. Full of life. "What are you laughing at?" I asked him. He blinked. "I just think you're using that playing hard to get tactic quite well. Before long, he's running over to you like a good boy." I picked up my exercise book and tossed it at his head. "If you dare say that again, I'll rip your mouth off." I waved my fist at him fiercely. But he just laughed unabashedly. His laughter was loud, drawing the attention of the entire class. In a moment of panic, I quickly covered his mouth. As soon as he stopped laughing, I realized something was off and quickly let go of him. But he suddenly leaned in closer, staring intently into my eyes. Just when I was about to punch him in the face, he laughed and lay back down on his desk. "Yeah, this time you weren't lying. It seems I really don't like him anymore. I've long stopped loving him." The love that lasted 10 years was reduced to mere instinctive heartbeats at the moment of rebirth. And those insignificant heartbeats had long vanished amidst countless nightmares. Now, I just want to stay as far away from him as possible, even further. It would be best if we never saw each other again after the college entrance exam. "Do you want to go to CDS?" Mike walked beside me, surprised by my answer. "Why?" "Because I like it. In my previous life, I didn't apply to a single school in City S, just to follow Robin to City B." "Because I like it," I said, looking down at my shadow under the streetlight. "I heard it's free there." Mike was tall, but the streetlight shrank his shadow into a blob. It looked kind of funny. "Yeah, City S is pretty nice." He kicked a pebble on the ground, his voice sounding like he had some happiness I couldn't quite grasp. When we reached the entrance of my community, I said goodbye to him and then asked, "Do you really live up ahead?" He paused for a moment. Then he casually replied, "Yeah, do you want to hang out?" "No thanks." I grabbed my backpack and hurried inside. Later, I thought about it carefully. The reason I hadn't run into him on the road in my previous life might be entirely because I was focused on chasing after Robin. I never noticed anyone else. Let alone Mike, who was least favored by Robin. My days of going to and from school with Mike didn't last long, and the semester ended. In the new semester of senior year, it was time to change seats again. Robin and Mike switched seats, the teacher casually said from the podium. I froze for a moment, still working on my exercises. Mike immediately raised his hand. "I don't want to switch." He had gotten used to being carefree and often absent from class, so the teachers weren't too fond of him. The teacher frowned, asking unhappily, "Why not?" "I like to sit in the sun," Mike said as he opened the window. The sunlight outside was just right. It fell on him, making him look exceptionally radiant. On the other side, Robin glanced at me from a distance, as if he was determined to claim Mike's spot. I raised my hand too. "Teacher, Robin has good grades, and many students ask him questions during breaks. I'm worried it might disrupt other students' studies and affect mine and Robin's learning." The implication being that it's best for Robin to sit alone right now. The teacher thought for a moment and agreed that I made a good point. But in the end, he switched Mike with the girl sitting behind him. Mike was satisfied with this result. He winked at me while leaning back on his desk. "As long as you're not sitting next to Robin, it doesn't matter who you sit with." Senior year is intense. Even though this was my second time experiencing it, there were still moments when it felt suffocating. Mike's swimming training was getting denser, and he spent less and less time in the classroom. But discussions about him were increasing. The girls who used to look down on Mike began to turn their attention to him as he won competition after competition. He really has no flaws except that he's not good at studying and has a bad temper. This is my new deskmate Jean's conclusion while discussing some gossip with me. I didn't stop working on my problems, but added, "He has a pretty good temper." Jean didn't expect me to respond to the gossip and leaned in closer. "I heard you like him. Is that true? That rumor is so old now." I paused my pen, looking at her helplessly. "That's not true. How could I like him?" "Don't listen to their nonsense." Just as I finished speaking, a bottle of water was placed at the corner of my desk. I turned to see Mike, slightly sweating at his temples. It was a bit awkward. After we exchanged glances for a few seconds, I looked down at the water on the desk. "How much is the water?" "I'll pay you." Mike seemed upset. He didn't take my money and didn't say a word to me. After he dozed off on the desk for a whole class, Robin came in. Robin placed a form on my desk and gently said, "The teacher wants you to participate in this competition for a chance at a direct admission spot." Hearing direct admission was exciting. I took the form without asking anything, not realizing this competition was with Robin. "Did you come here just so I wouldn't?" Robin asked, sitting next to me in training class. I glanced up at him. Now I could look at him calmly. "Of course not," I politely shifted a bit. "Direct admission is really important. Way more important than you." I don't know if my action was too obvious or if that statement was too cold. Robin's smile faltered for a moment. I ignored him and started preparing for class. When I finished my problems and looked up after class, I saw Mike standing outside the classroom. He had changed a lot, with many girls approaching him to chat. "Is that the type you like?" Robin asked as he noticed me looking at Mike. His tone was casual. I turned back to him and replied firmly, "I just don't like guys like you." "What are you doing here?" I asked Mike, who was walking beside me. "You're not just passing by again, are you?" He ruffled my hair, saying, "The gym is right next door." "Didn't you know?" I instinctively turned back and saw it really was a gym. "Do you train at this time every day?" I asked, since I only came to the training class after school and it was already late. "Do you think it's easy to win championships?" He winked at me playfully. His nonchalant attitude made it seem like he found it easy. I smiled and nodded. "Okay, I wonder if I'll have the honor of treating the champion to ice cream. As a way to atone for my earlier behavior." "Ice cream?" I pointed to an ice cream shop by the roadside. Mike looked over and smiled, then this champion will give you that chance. But before the ice cream was ready, a woman arrived. She was elegantly made up, wearing a long red dress and high heels, standing across from Mike. Mike? Her voice was soft. Mike looked up at her, and the smile vanished from his face. The woman looked a bit familiar, but I couldn't remember who she was. I sighed, looking at the ice cream that had once been Mike's. After that night, when Mike left with her, I didn't see him for several days. The next time I saw him was at my doorstep. He stood there alone, a stark contrast to his usual lively self. Mike? I called out to him. He looked up, his indifferent eyes lighting up a bit. I thought you were kidnapped or something, it's been so long since I saw you. I tried to lighten the mood with a joke. It seemed to work. He slightly smiled and then playfully patted my head. Can you think something nice about me? Mike was hurt. I pointed to a small piece of bandage on his leg. What happened here? He looked down at his leg and then tugged at his pants. He must have pulled the bandage, inhaling sharply, but stubbornly replied, it's nothing. How did you end up like this after just a few days? I frowned, lifting his pant leg to see the bandage. He grabbed my hand and chuckled softly. I looked up at him in confusion, only to find him leaning closer. His face was very close to mine. So close that his breath made my face flush. Care so much about me? He raised his eyebrow playfully, his mouth curling into a teasing smile. You're not falling for me, are you? I was startled. I pulled my hand away, quickly standing up from my chair. What nonsense are you talking about? Sharon. He looked at me, his eyes sparkling as if filled with stars, unlike how they were when he waited at the gate. I said eyes don't lie. Caught off guard, I turned away instinctively. Mike, if you dare say that again, I'll tear your mouth apart. I said fiercely and ran back home without looking back. Mike had no filter. He was used to saying whatever. I should have been accustomed to it by now, and not reacted so strongly today. Thinking this, I rolled over in bed, deciding not to dwell on it. Yes. I was sleepless. All because of that jerk Mike, who talked nonsense all day. I groggily looked at Mike waiting at my door, with dark circles under my eyes. He seemed to be in a good mood, waving at me. Good morning. What a joke. I ignored him and kept walking. Since his leg was hurt, he couldn't train for a while and stayed in class. Now, the girls in class divided into two groups. One group was around Robin, and the other was around Mike. As I was about to rub my temples, I heard Mike's impatient voice, I'm going to sleep, don't make noise. But his approach was better than Robin's. I bit my lip, feeling a bit pleased. The competition results came out quickly. Robin ranked first as usual, and I was second. The teacher was very pleased and said he wanted to treat us to a meal. I initially thought to decline but squeezed the trophy in my hand and agreed. Sharon. As soon as I entered the restaurant, Robin waved at me. I sighed and walked slowly inside. Is the teacher not here yet? I sat down opposite Robin. He kindly poured me a glass of water. He might be held up. I nodded. Then, I slowly poured the water he had poured for me into a bowl, rinsing it and my chopsticks. Can you help me dump this? Thanks. I politely stopped the waiter and handed over the bowl. I was worried drinking Robin's water would bring me bad luck. Seeing my actions, he didn't get mad and calmly rinsed his bowl and chopsticks too. Truly the top student. Never awkward. If we succeed in getting direct admission, we'll be in the same school. Robin said while rinsing his bowl, looking up at me. I froze. If this were in my previous life, I would have been so happy I'd dream of it. But sadly, I could only get into a school not too far from his. Wait, you can only get into one university through direct admission? I smiled at him. Then I want to try for the college entrance exam. That statement hit him hard, and his expression stiffened. I pretended not to notice his discomfort and checked the time on my watch. It's been a while, if the teacher doesn't come soon, I'm leaving. With that, I shouldered my bag and walked out. Just a few steps out of the restaurant, Robin grabbed me. I don't understand, he said, a bit frustrated. What exactly do you dislike about me? I turned to look at him. Under the streetlight, he didn't seem so high and mighty, pulling me just like I had pulled him countless times before. Robin, I pulled my hand away and asked him, you don't actually like me, do you? I knew Robin was troubled. In my last life, I followed him around, wanting to gather stars for him, yet he wouldn't spare me a glance. Now, I couldn't even be bothered to look at him, and he suddenly liked me. Definitely troubled, Mike, the injured athlete sitting next to me in gym class, chimed in. I turned to him as he pointed at Robin, who was jogging on the field, and said, look at him, running like he's exhausted, he must have weak kidneys. I spat out the water I had just drunk. Why do you hate him so much? I asked Mike, tightening the bottle cap. It seemed like he had always harbored a strong hostility towards Robin. I recalled that in my last life, they had very little interaction. Mike glanced at me, stood up from the steps, dusted off his hands, and walked in the opposite direction. Because he deserves to be hated. That didn't really clarify anything. The gym class hadn't ended when Jean ran over to sit beside me. Guess what? Big news, she said as she plopped down, eager to gossip. Ever since she sat next to me, I was in the loop about all the class gossip. What big news? Ken's mom went to the principal's office. I frowned. Who's Ken? He sounded a bit familiar. You don't remember? He's the senior who's 2 grades above us, super rich and driven around in luxury cars every day. I had some vague recollection of him. I think I only caught a glimpse of him in my freshman year. But didn't he graduate over a year ago? Why is his mom at school? Jean glanced around and leaned closer. When I just walked past the principal's office, I overheard them saying Mike is Ken's dad's illegitimate son. Ken's mom is causing a scene, demanding the principal expel Mike. How could this be happening? I widened my eyes, looking at Jean. Did you hear that wrong? It's absolutely true. Suddenly, I remembered that flashy woman who had been with Mike that day. Connecting that with Mike's impressive swimming talent, it struck me that no one had mentioned his victories in swimming competitions since then. What really happened to Mike in my last life? The news about Mike being an illegitimate son spread quickly. When I heard my classmates discussing it, I immediately looked at Jean. She shook her head. I only told you. Worry crept into my gaze as I looked at Mike's empty seat. He must have heard the nasty rumors too. Sharon, can you help me grab something? Just as I was about to look for Mike, the chemistry teacher at the door called me. The chemistry lab was in another building, and as I entered, the bell rang. I thought I'd just find Mike after class and searched for the lab equipment the teacher needed. Suddenly, a noise came from behind me. When I turned around, I saw a small flame springing up nearby. After that big fire incident, I couldn't face flames anymore. Even the fireplace at home felt like a danger zone to me. Now, seeing that fire growing larger, my legs went weak, and I collapsed. Help! Someone! Help me! I trembled, crying as I called for help. Just as I thought I'd be unlucky enough to die in another fire, someone rushed in. Sharon. It was Mike. Help, help me! I cried, gasping for breath. Mike ran to my side, draping his soaked jacket over me while covering my eyes with his hand. The raging fire was instantly replaced by endless darkness. It's okay, Mike said in a low, hoarse voice, sounding scared. I'm here. I'll get you out. I held on to him tightly, feeling like I'd grabbed hold of a lifeline in the dark. It seemed like a lot of people arrived, and the noise grew chaotic around us. Mike held me as we moved outside. I lost track of time until I heard Robin, panting, ask, Sharon, are you okay? Hearing his voice felt like I was still trapped in that inferno. Dizziness washed over me. Before I passed out, I heard Mike's cold voice. Stay away from her. They say being burned alive is the worst way to die. I crouched in a corner of the balcony, watching the flames approach me with an endless sense of dread. Help me, help me. After calling out countless times, someone suddenly burst through the fire. It was 17-year-old Mike. He wrapped me tightly in his soaked jacket. Don't be afraid, Sharon, he comforted, I'm here. I won't let anything happen to you. The flame seemed to recede slowly. I shivered from the cold of the jacket. Doctor, is she okay? In my hazy state, I heard Mike's voice. She's fine, just scared. She'll be okay once she wakes up. The doctor's voice felt distant. You should worry about yourself, though, the principal is under pressure. Once the doctor walked away, I opened my eyes. Mike stood at my bedside, his clothes singed and his face smudged with black and white. You're awake? When he saw me open my eyes, the tension in his brows relaxed. I nodded, glancing at the door. Is the principal going to expel you? He paused, his eyes slightly downcast. You heard about that? He forced a smile, but it held a hint of self-mockery. Was that woman your mom? Yes. It was exactly as I guessed. But I felt like I had seen that woman before, as if I recognized her from somewhere. Sharon, he suddenly looked at me. What is it? I'm an illegitimate child. I was taken aback, I hadn't expected him to be so blunt. So what? I met his gaze. That's not your fault. It's not your mom's fault or your dad's, it's not your fault. Let adults handle their business. You just focus on growing up and becoming a responsible adult. Maybe it was the bright lights in the infirmary, but Mike's eyes sparkled too. He reached out to ruffle my hair. Okay. The fire in the lab and Mike's background quickly became hot topics at school. What pushed this topic to the forefront was Mike's striking mother showing up at school. I didn't know what she discussed with the principal, but he led her into his office, looking troubled, then came out smiling. After she left the principal's office, she didn't leave the school. Instead, she stood outside our classroom for a long time. I sighed, glancing at Mike's empty seat. She probably wouldn't see Mike today. To my surprise, she called out to me on my way home. Sharon. She waved at me with a smile. I froze for a moment but walked over to her. Hello. She smiled warmly at me. In this regard, Mike resembled her quite a bit. You've grown so much. I didn't expect her to start with that. You were this tall back then, she gestured in the air, seemed like you were only 6, and now you're all grown up. She rambled on about a lot of things. I strained to remember my 6-year-old self based on her words. That felt like a distant memory, but I caught a glimpse of a clue in my mind. Linda? I tentatively called out. She laughed and patted my head, confirming my suspicion. When I was 6, a mother and son moved in next door, but they stayed for less than 6 months. I had completely forgotten them in the river of memory. I didn't expect that mother and son to be Mike and his mom. Tell Mike not to worry about school, I've already taken care of it. She seemed to have a real purpose in finding me. I nodded. Why not just tell him yourself? She was taken aback. Didn't Mike tell you? She touched her belly. I'm married, and Mike hasn't wanted to talk to me for years. A child born out of wedlock. A remarried, pregnant mother. How could Mike still seem so vibrant, living what looked like a happy life? Mike. I found Mike in the park near my home, after not seeing him for days. He was squatting alone under a bridge, a half-burned cigarette in his hand. The dim streetlight cast shadows on him, making him look heartbreakingly vulnerable. Maybe this was his true self. He looked up at me and instinctively tossed the cigarette aside. I glanced at the smoldering cigarette on the ground, walked over, and tapped him on the head. You've been smoking? He shook his head. Then he spat out the chewing gum in his mouth for me to see. What are you doing here? He shifted over to make space for me. I squatted down beside him. Is this place just for you? He smiled. His smile was really charming, like a shooting star across the night sky. Mike, why aren't you coming to school? He picked up a stone and threw it into the river. It's not like there are many days left. Your mom came to school today. His hand froze mid-throw. She went to see the principal. You won't be expelled. The stone he tossed this time made a big splash. Mike stood up. She doesn't need to come with her false kindness. She's married now, with someone else's child. He looked down at me, his eyes dim. She shed that shameful identity, that child is born legitimate, receiving all the love and blessings. Sharon, what about me? His voice was low and hoarse, like a needle piercing my heart. I stood up, meeting his gaze. You have me. With me, you're also legitimate, worthy of everyone's love and blessings. Mike, come back to school, with me. In my previous life, it was around this time that Mike left school. And I never heard from him again. But this time, Mike came back. No one at school discussed Mike's background anymore, everyone was focused on studying hard. Months flew by in the blink of an eye. On the day of the college entrance exams, once nervous classmates celebrated like wild horses released from their reins. I stood quietly in the hallway, feeling an unprecedented sense of relaxation. At that moment, Robin walked up to me. He'd already been guaranteed admission, but still took the entrance exam. Sharon. He came closer, gazing at the clouds with me. Where do you want to go to college? I had once asked him this. I glanced at him. After losing my feelings for him, I realized he wasn't that special. Love really is a filter for bad boys. I'll go to the city I love for college, I smiled and replied, but definitely not a university in B City. He looked surprised. Sharon. He looked down at me. I also gave up my guaranteed admission. I genuinely didn't expect that. In this life, he seemed like a completely different person. If you want to go to S City, I'd be willing to go with you. He said this very seriously. I like you, will you be my girlfriend? I frowned, feeling a bit nauseous. The tides had turned, I never expected it would be him now. But I wasn't thrilled. Just then, Mike waved at me from downstairs. I relaxed my brow and smiled back at him. As I turned to go downstairs, I said to Robin, with your grades, even giving up your guaranteed admission, you could still go to a university in B City. Robin, I don't like you. I said seriously, word by word. I didn't like you before, don't like you now, and won't like you in the future. I will never like you. Especially not the part of me that would give up myself for you. What's so great about Mike? He followed closely behind me, unconvinced. He smokes, drinks, fights, and his grades are terrible. He's just a shameful illegitimate child. As soon as he said that, I turned and slapped him. I used to think his infidelity was a mistake he made 10 years later, so I shouldn't blame the present him, I only wanted to distance myself from him. I never imagined he would be such a person. Perhaps I never truly understood him. He's better than you in every way. I laughed at his ridiculousness. Robin, what do you even like about me? If I remember correctly, since the first day you transferred here, I haven't bothered you. Look behind you. I pointed to the group of girls surrounding him. So many girls are interested in you, why do you have to like me? Are you desperate? Or is it that you're so used to being above everyone that you enjoy conquering a woman like me who isn't swayed by you? I stared coldly at him. If I were like those girls, would you still like me? No. He probably never considered a girl would say that to him. Frozen in place, he didn't move. Just then, a girl who couldn't stand it stepped out from behind him, but before she could say anything, Mike grabbed my hand from behind and ran downstairs. That day, Mike held my hand and ran for a long time. The wind blew against us, lifting my hair. Mike laughed, see? Even the wind says you're free. I was free. At the graduation party, Robin didn't come. The girls who liked Robin looked at me like they wanted to eat me alive. But with Mike sitting beside me, none dared approach. I munched on snacks, smiling at Mike. You look like my bodyguard now. I'm happy to be, he raised an eyebrow, grinning playfully. Everyone drank a lot that day. Many classmates were drinking for the first time and got completely wasted. After I sent the last girl home, who had been cursing at me, I turned to look at Mike behind me. His ears were a bit pink. He had definitely drunk a lot. We walked side by side, and the streetlights stretched our shadows long. Even though we were still a fist apart, our shadows seemed connected. Sharon. Mike suddenly stopped. I stopped too, looking at our shadows. I like you. He turned to face me. His eyes sparkled, as if wanting to draw me in. I slightly lowered my head, tucking my hair behind my ear. I know. I had known for a long time. When he took me to watch his matches. When he jumped down from the wall to stop those thugs. I come from a shameful background, my grades are poor, and I fight, he repeated Robin's words one by one, but I don't smoke. I raised my hand to cover his mouth. His lips were cold, stirring in my palm. It felt ticklish. My heart felt ticklish too. Your background isn't your fault, I answered patiently. Not everyone has to excel academically. You swim really well, always finishing first. You fight, but you've never hurt anyone unnecessarily. You can protect me. You're so great. I blinked, tilting my head to look at him. I like you too. He was momentarily stunned. His eyes brightened, as if filled with stars. Really? Really? Then we fell silent. We walked back to the neighborhood, both blushing. At the neighborhood gate, just as I was about to say goodbye, Mike suddenly asked, "Want to try some chewing gum?" I was taken aback. "It's really sweet," he insisted. I nodded in a daze and reached out my hand. But he popped a piece of gum into his mouth and blew a bubble. Before I knew what he was up to, he leaned slightly and let the bubble touch my lips. My mind went blank, and I instinctively licked my lips. With a bang, the bubble burst, and I snapped back to reality. "Is it sweet?" Mike asked me with a smile. In that moment, my heart raced and my face turned red. I stomped my foot and ran away. "Not at all sweet." I lied. Both Mike and I moved to S City. He was accepted by our school due to his outstanding swimming results. In S City, all the previous rumors had vanished. As soon as Mike enrolled, his name appeared on the confession wall. "Hey, isn't that the school heartthrob?" I said, sitting in a cafe, feeling a bit jealous as I watched him come to our date after training. Mike cheerfully sat next to me. "Here, I'm just Sharon's boyfriend." I playfully punched his chest and touched it. He was getting more solid. At times like this, I felt as if everything was a dream. Even though it was my second time in college, it felt like this was what university should be. Endless competitions, countless awards, and a caring boyfriend. Not just waiting outside the boys' dormitory every day. Time passed beautifully and warmly. In a blink, 10 years flew by. It was September 8th again, and I stared at the calendar on the wall, lost in thought. 10 years have gone by. Mike hugged me from behind, also looking at the calendar. "Yeah, 10 years ago today, I became your desk mate." "Right." I smiled and turned to hug him back. "Let's get ready to go, we can't be late." Today was his last match, before retiring. It was important. Originally, he didn't want to participate, wanting to stay home with me. But I insisted he join, not wanting him to have any regrets. After seeing him off, I settled back on the couch. I don't know how long later, our high school group chat suddenly buzzed, saying Robin was getting married. Then someone sent a photo. It was Robin with a woman. Unlike the photo from 10 years ago, this woman was dressed modestly and bore a slight resemblance to me. Jean messaged me privately, "Robin really has deep feelings for you." "Stop, I can't handle that," I replied with a laugh. The high school group was still buzzing, while my screen showed only Robin and that woman. Everything had changed. Yet, it felt like it was slowly coming full circle. In a haze, I fell asleep again. A long-forgotten nightmare returned. I was helplessly curled up on the balcony, but this time, I opened Mike's chat. Just as I was about to type, I stopped. I exited the chat and dialed Mike's number. He answered, still at the competition, sounding anxious yet gentle. "Don't be scared, I'm here." All my fears vanished in an instant. I woke to the sound of my phone ringing. Then I heard Mike's voice. "Whatever, I'm retiring anyway, just say I lack sportsmanship." I struggled to wake up and opened my eyes to see Mike standing by the floor-to-ceiling window. A wave of unprecedented security washed over me. My nose tinged, and tears streamed down my face. "Why are you back?" I asked Mike, my voice hoarse. He turned to look at me, backlit, so I couldn't see his expression. I just knew he was as warm as the sunlight. He smiled and asked. I left soup simmering in the kitchen and fell asleep. "What would you do without me?" End of main text. Mike's side story. When I saw the news about the big fire, I had just finished a meeting. "Sir, you have another meeting this afternoon." My assistant chased after me as I loosened my tie and rushed outside. "Cancel everything." I drove through countless red lights until I reached the scene. The street was filled with people, but Robin was nowhere to be found. His house was on fire. He hadn't returned. "Over there." Someone pointed to a balcony on a tall building. "That's the lady of the house." Sharon. Ignoring the police's obstruction, I rushed in. The elevator was out due to the fire. I climbed floor by floor, my heart growing colder. The fire was enormous. In the end, I collapsed outside the door. If I could do it again, I would never hesitate and let her be taken by someone else. I wondered if fate had softened. When I woke up, I found myself back 10 years ago. When Mike switches places, sit next to Sharon, the teacher said, and I couldn't express my happiness. I began to intentionally get close to Sharon. She thought the rumors about her liking me were spread by me. Even if she initially wanted to use me to play hard to get with Robin, that was fine. As long as she stayed by my side, I could protect her at all times. I no longer followed her quietly. I woke up early every morning, took a long detour to wait near her house, walked to school with her, and returned together. Every time Robin tried to get close to her, I would appear right on time. I would deliberately pass by wherever she was. So what if she said she didn't like me? Eventually, she would come to like me. Everything was progressing well. Until that day, when my mother, whom I hadn't seen in years, appeared. I suddenly remembered the painful past. I realized my identity that couldn't be explained to others. No matter how I changed, what was meant to come would still come. That guy named Ken found me again. The thugs he hired were beyond my ability to handle. "You're just a bastard," he looked down at me. "Tell your mom to stay away from my family. You can forget about joining my family." I couldn't refute a single word he said. This identity was suffocating. And Sharon shone even brighter than in my past life, so bright that I often questioned if I was worthy. Do you think you deserve her? After the college entrance exam, Robin found me and said the exact same thing. He knew I liked Sharon. He had known for a long time. This time I countered, "Do you think you deserve her? Do you deserve the kind of passionate love Sharon had in her past life?" As I was leaving, I looked back at him. His grip on the coffee cup was tight. "You originally had the chance to have her," I said softly, "but you didn't cherish it. If you don't cherish it, don't blame me for taking it. For Sharon, I chose a different path this time. I no longer had to turn to my biological father when I was at a dead end. This time, I made it into the national team through my own efforts. Soon, it was time for me to retire. The entertainment industry had extended an olive branch to me, and I would be signed to an entertainment company after retirement. As long as I could give Sharon a good life, I was willing to do anything. But she insisted I participate in the competition on September 8th. "I like the way you are on the field." Her request was something I could never refuse. "Then you come watch me compete." "Stop joking, I have work to handle." I was worried about her staying home. Before the competition, I called her twice, but no one answered. A wave of fear washed over me, and despite the objections, I changed clothes and went home. When I opened the door, I saw her sleeping soundly on the couch, with the soup I loved still simmering in the kitchen. The bubbling filled the room. I walked into the kitchen and turned off the heat. As the bubbling stopped, my heart also settled. I crouched beside the couch, watching Sharon's peaceful face, never feeling as grateful as I did at that moment. A single phone call woke her up. The phone should have stayed on silent. It's fine, some scandals are great, and there's news even before entering the entertainment industry. I laughed, pulling her into my arms and kissing her furrowed brow. "I rushed back just to drink your soup, didn't I?" She was easy to comfort. A little coaxing and she was fine. The high school group chat was still lively. Suddenly, someone sent a blurry photo. Sharon zoomed in on the picture and pointed at the person behind her, asking, "Is this you?" It looked like an event from our freshman year. "Yes," I replied, pulling her closer. "I was always behind you, but you never turned around, so I had to run up beside you." She seemed confused and suddenly looked up at me, asking, "Be honest, when did you start liking me?" "A long, long time ago." I couldn't remember clearly. When I was 6, my estranged dad showed up, and my mom argued with him about his hidden marriage. I sat helplessly at the front door, and 6-year-old Sharon took my hand and said, "Adult arguments are for adults. We're kids, so we just need to grow up and try to be good adults who don't make mistakes." Maybe that was when the seed was planted. The seed slowly sprouted, grew, and eventually blossomed. The end.